Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Zhou turned to look at the Empress Dowager and asked, "Is the Imperial Tutor interested in music as well?" The Empress Dowager sighed emotionally before she said, "The Imperial Tutor knows the 4 arts, and he would play the zither from time to time. However, I've never seen him using this zither. This is an exquisite work of art. Perhaps, it's some sort of ornament?" Zhou shook his head. "I wouldn't be so sure about that. The others might think it was a decoration." However, to the experienced and knowledgeable Zhou, he knew the zither could be controlled with primal qi. The system's notification was proof of that. The other continued to look at Zhou. Zhou released the 9-string zither, and it hovered in front of him. He extended both hands. Whiz. The 9-string zither shone with golden radiance and enlarged. Then, an energy seal appeared and merged with the enlarged 9-string zither. The lines between his fingers were formed from energy. Everyone stared at it with wide eyes. Pan Litian said, "Someone once said that sound techniques are skills that require vast knowledge. Most cultivators would only stop at the brutish and unrefined stage of howling or hurling. A true master of melody knows how to bewitch the heart and mind with musical notes and could affect another person's will. A masculine melody is speedy and fierce like a thunderclap, while a feminine melody was gentle and enriching like flowing water. Unfortunately, most cultivators would just go with the flow and cultivate the 18 arms. After all, if they had the time to listen to music, they would have preferred to spend it cutting down someone else. They find that much more fulfilling. Old Lang, you can't resist bickering with me, can you? I'm just discussing the matter." Under normal circumstances, many families would not have the resources to allow a member to learn elegant arts. If one were to place a zither or a knife before a child from an ordinary family, there was no doubt the child would choose the knife without any hesitation. Naturally, there were always exceptions. Pan Litian asked, "How do you explain conch, then?" Lang Luo glanced at Conch, who was standing at the side. He shook his head. "Although she's special, it won't change my views." "You argumentative geezer." Zhou ignored the duo's bickering and moved his finger. A cacophonous noise rang in the air. Zhou did not know how to play the zither at all. How could a modern young man who transmigrated here have time to learn to play the zither? Amazing. That's some fine playing, Pavilion Master. Pan Zhong applauded. Everyone turned to look at Pan Zhong immediately. Pan Zhong ceased his applause immediately as he mumbled, It was great." Zhou Jifeng looked at Pan Zhong scornfully. "You buttermouth. You're a far cry from Mr. 8th. Wait, where is Mr. 8th? It's not like him to miss such an occasion." Despite the cacophonous noise, everyone bore with it and listened. After a while, Zhou shook his head. "Although I know how to control qi through melody, I've never practiced it. This 9-string zither will surely be extraordinary in the right hands." Upon hearing this, little Yuan said, "Master, why don't you let junior sister Conch give it a try?" Conch looked expectant. Since the 9-string zither was revealed, she had not been able to tear her eyes away from it. It was obvious she liked the zither. Zhou almost forgot that among his 10 disciples, he had one who knew how to control qi with melody. Zhou retracted his primal qi, the 9-string zither reverted to its original appearance. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, he sent the 9-string zither to Conch. Conch was clearly much more excited than usual. She picked the 9-string zither up and would not put it back down. It seemed like she had forgotten that she had another instrument, the Lantian jade flute. The Empress Dowager and Li Yunzhao simultaneously turned to look at Conch. "Who's this?" "My latest disciple, Conch," Zhou replied. Li Yunzhao praised, "Those you accept as a disciple are always extraordinary, Senior Ji." He could sense Conch's cultivation base and the flow of aura in her, but he did not underestimate her. "Focus your mind," Zhou said tonelessly. "Oh. Conk did as she was told. She loosened her hands. The 9-string zither hovered before her. Zhou did not have to teach her what to do next. She knew what she was supposed to do. Conk immediately condensed chi into energy. The primal chi that wrapped around the 9-string zither instantly turned into a red energy seal. A 9-string zither compatible with her size appeared in front of her. Red energy. Li Yunzhao was shocked. Zhou knew this would certainly catch their eyes, but he did not mind. Meanwhile, the evil sky pavilion's 4 elders, the disciples, and the others looked at Conk, puzzled. Red energy? How was this possible? Upon seeing their reactions, Zhou gruffly said, "There's no need to be so surprised." The 4 elders instantly understood what Zhou meant. Zhou could unleash golden and blue energy seals, after all. Was it really a surprise that his illegitimate daughter could unleash red energy? Everyone's eyes were trained on Conk as her fingers danced on the strings. The zither sang. Her fingers produced a mellifluous tune. Although Zhou did not know how to play the zither, he knew that most zither had 7 strings. It was shocking that a 9-stringed zither could produce such a melody. The gears in his mind began to turn as he regarded Conk in shock. He connected the puzzles in his mind. Perhaps, Conk was from that place. Shortly after, the notes formed by her energy drifted away and scattered into the surroundings like wind blades. This is bad. Li Yunzhao immediately planted himself before the Empress Dowager. Swoosh. 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 The notes from the melody turned into sound blades that shot out into the surroundings. The melody was like a storm now. Boom. 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 Zhou activated his protective energy. Similarly, his disciples activated theirs as well and blocked the sound blades. After the short performance, the inner warehouse was in a mess. Conk hastily released her hands. She clenched them into fists. The song ended. The red energy lines faded away, and the delicate and exquisite 9-string zither dropped back into her hands. Conk said apologetically, "Master. It wasn't my intention to do that." Zhou stroked his beard and said, "You've just entered the divine court realm. Although you're gifted in tune, you still have a lot to learn about controlling chi with sound." Understood. I'll work harder. Zhou raised his hand. His energy wrapped around the 9-string zither, and it flew back into his hand. Conk was crestfallen. Zhou said, "The 9-string zither is something he left behind. I'll hold on to it for now." Conk nodded. When little Yuan saw Conk was depressed, she quickly whispered into Conk's ear, "Don't worry. No one in the evil sky pavilion knows how to play music. You're the only one. It'll be yours sooner or later." Conk thought little Yuan's words made sense. She was in a better mood now that she heard little Yuan's words. "Thank you, 9th senior sister. I wonder what's going on in that little girl's mind." The Empress Dowager looked at the box on the floor with a sigh before she said, "My mission is done. From this day on, this mission shall be passed on to the evil sky pavilion." Mission? To protect the peace of the world? Zhou found the Empress Dowager's words amusing. However, his expression was as calm as ever. "I'm merely making a suggestion. It's up to you what you want to do." The 9-leaf stage would bring disaster. If Zhou were to do as the Empress Dowager suggested, did it not mean he had to deliberately weaken his cultivation base? Most importantly, he was only at the 5-leaf stage. In the end, he only said, "What if the tides of the time can't be held back?" After reading the letter, Zhou felt that the imperial tutor was too narrow-minded. Throughout history, no dynasty had ever managed to align the thoughts and actions of every single person under the heavens. Free will, experiments, and curiosity were imperative in human improvement. Even if Zhou did not transmigrate to this place, Ji Tiandao, Yun Tianluo, Lu Gu, and Gong Yuandu, all these people, would still try to attempt the 9-leaf stage. Even his previously short-lived disciple, Yu Shangrong, had similar thoughts in the past. When the lotus severing era dawned, many cultivators jumped on the bandwagon and cultivated. Half a year had passed since then. Even Lu Gu had recultivated to the 8.5 leaf stage. The others would certainly catch up sooner or later. It was only a matter of time. Who could stop everyone from attempting the 9-leaf stage? Even if Lu Zhou did not spread the theory of lotus severing, Yun Tianluo's chessboard, Lu Gu's research, and Yu Shangrong's successful attempt at severing his lotus would one day reveal the answer to everyone. The Empress Dowager sighed and said, "I'll leave it to the heavens. I, for one, think it's in our hands." The Empress nodded and did not continue the conversation. Lu Zhou remembered the Luo woman mentioned in the letter. He asked, "Have you heard of a woman with the surname Luo, Empress Dowager?" The Empress Dowager fell deep into her thoughts. Perhaps, it was due to her advanced age, she needed some time to recall events of the past. After a while, she shook her head. The imperial tutor never mentioned her to me. Perhaps, he might have told someone about her. I heard the emperor say that the imperial tutor would frequently spend time on his own while thinking about his hometown. The imperial tutor had spoken about searching for someone. Perhaps, he was referring to the Luo woman. So she had never appeared in the divine capital before? Lu Zhou was puzzled. Li Yunzhao said, "I've been serving the Empress Dowager for the longest time. I know about everything the Empress Dowager sees and hears. I can guarantee that we have no knowledge of a Luo woman being on good terms with the imperial tutor. However, the divine capital is huge, and there are many people with that surname. We can rule out the possibility that the person the imperial tutor was looking for is among them." Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. "I see." At this moment, an imperial bodyguard showed up outside the inner warehouse. He bowed and said, "Empress Dowager, the Big Dipper Academy's Zhou Yukai and the Sky Conduct Academy's Mang Nanfei request an audience." The Empress Dowager sighed and said, "Tell them to wait in Dajing Palace." Understood. Dajing Palace. The Big Dipper Academy's president Zhou Yukai and the Sky Conduct Academy's president Mang Nanfei were shaking as they kneeled on the ground. The Empress Dowager sat on the right while Lu Zhou sat on the left. Zhou Yukai prostrated himself and said, "Senior Ji, please believe me. I didn't approve of the 10 elders' actions. I tried to dissuade them from interfering with the conflict between the divine capital and the evil sky pavilion, but they wouldn't listen." Mang Nanfei said with a sigh, "Ever since Yan province, I've repeatedly told my disciples to not leave the academy. I didn't think that." On the Twin Rocks Peak, Lu Zhou had met Zhou Yukai, and they had a conversation there. Among the two presidents, the others were, naturally, more suspicious of Mang Nanfei. "Give me a reason to believe in you," Lu Zhou said. Zhou Yukai shuffled forward on his knees. He produced a handful of talismans and said, "These are the talismans I've given my core disciples. If they stray too far away from the academy, the energy seal on the talismans will fade away. Senior Ji, you have a profound cultivation base, you can examine the time these talismans were created." Lu Zhou waved his arm. One of the talismans flew into his palm. Indeed, there was a faint trace of a talisman seal's power on it. This was the simplest tracking seal applied on paper. "What about you?" Lu Zhou shifted his gaze to Mang Nanfei. Mang Nanfei shuddered. His eyes were wide open as he said, "Senior Ji, I'm telling the truth. I thought of using the same method but..." This was not convincing enough. On the Twin Rocks Peak, Mang Nanfei was dismissive of Lu Zhou's invitation. He only sent a disciple there. At that time, Lu Zhou had only intimidated him with a disguise card. At this moment, Hua Chongyang bowed and said, "Senior Ji, I have something to say." "Let's hear it." "When the Nether Sect attacked the city, I saw many Sky Conduct Academy disciples," Hua Chongyang said. Hua Chongyang's words were akin to the final nail being hammered into the coffin for Mang Nanfei. He fell backward immediately. You must be mistaken." Hua Chongyang snorted before he said, "I can differentiate between the Imperial Guards and the Sky Conduct Academy disciples. One group donned armor while the other wore long white robes." Hua Chongyang was not a blind man. Lu Zhou made up his mind. He looked at Hua Chongyang and said, "How many Nether Sect disciples died?" "We haven't had the time to tally the number yet. Before the battle of the divine capital, we had close to 70,000 comrades. Now, we barely have 40,000. A frown appeared on Hua Chongyang's face when he said this. Swoosh. At this moment, many Nether Sect disciples swarmed toward the entrance of Dajing Palace and glared at Meng Nanfei with bloodshot eyes. The 12 branch masters from the Nether Sect fell to their knees at once. With the sect master's absence, please make a decision on our behalf, Patriarch. The members of the Nether Sect echoed the branch master's words. Please make a decision on our behalf, Patriarch. Please make a decision on our behalf, Patriarch. Their voices resounded loudly in Dajing Palace. For every grievance, someone is responsible. For every debt, there is a debtor. Lu Gu was dead. There was nothing more to be said about this. Lu Zhou looked at Meng Nanfei. Even if I forgive you, the blood of tens of thousands of Nether Sect disciples determined that you won't be forgiven. Meng Nanfei's heart sank. He hastily said, stumbling over his words, Senior Ji. I had no choice as well. We were only serving our master. Lu Zhou ignored him. He called out, Hua Chongyang. Yes, Senior. In Zhenghai's absence, you'll be in charge of the Nether Sect. I'll leave Meng Nanfei's fate to you, Lu Zhou said with a wave of his sleeve. When Hua Chongyang heard this, he fell to one knee. Thank you, Senior Ji. Upon hearing Lu Zhou's words, the branch masters grew visibly excited. Hua Chongyang looked at Meng Nanfei and said, Come with us. When Meng Nanfei did not move, Hua Chongyang went over and dragged him out. Hua Chongyang was injured to begin with. He did not have the confidence to take down Meng Nanfei. Meng Nanfei flinched instinctively. He cowered in fear. At this moment, Lu Zhou raised a hand and launched a palm seal. The five-leaf Lu Zhou was already considered an elite among elites. Boom. Meng Nanfei did not dare to dodge. He took several steps backward and grunted, blood spilled from the edge of his lips. Lu Zhou continued to ignore Meng Nanfei. He rose to his feet and said, Hua Chongyang, I'll be staying in the Imperial City for a few days. You'll be in charge of cleaning up the divine capital. So long as I'm here, the sky won't fall. Hua Chongyang had been worried that the Nether Sect would have a hard time picking up the pieces if Lu Zhou left. After all, the Nether Sect and the Imperial City had both suffered heavy losses in this war. With the evil sky pavilion around, he was beyond thankful. Hua Chongyang and the Nether Sect members were overjoyed. They kneeled again. Thank you, Patriarch. On the city walls of Liang Province City, Huang Shiji looked at the green-robed swordsman on the turret. He cupped his fists together and said, Mr. Second, are you thinking about a method to kill General Carroll? With his arms crossed and body facing west, Yu Shangrong answered without turning back, No. Then, what are you thinking about, Mr. Second? I'm wondering why Carroll isn't attacking until now, Yu Shangrong replied. He must be afraid. Instead of passively defending, why don't we take the initiative and attack? Mr. Second, what do you mean? Huang Shiji was startled. At this moment, a figure flew down. He bowed and said, Island Master, a letter from Mr. Seventh in the Divine Capital. What is it about? Sect Master Yu is in trouble.